I just want to briefly touch on graphing absolute value functions using vertical and horizontal shifts. So we've seen this before with quadratic functions, right? I had f of x equals x squared plus k. This would be a vertical shift, either up or down depending upon the k. And if I had f of x equals x minus h squared, this would be a horizontal shift. The same is true for absolute value functions. So remember, the absolute value function matches each x with its absolute value. So if I have f of x is the absolute value of x, 0 goes to 0, 1 goes to 1, negative 1 goes to 1. The absolute value of 2 is 2. The absolute value of negative 2 is a positive 2, right? So it looks like this. This is, well, okay, it's a little straighter than that, but this is our absolute value function. So if I was to add 2 to my absolute value function, how do we think that would shift our graph? Well, we know from when we learned about quadratic functions, this should shift my graph up 2. So let's double check that. If I have x is negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2, remembering there is symmetry. If x is negative 2, I have the absolute value of negative 2 plus 2, which is 4. The absolute value of negative 1 plus 2, which is 3. The absolute value of 0 plus 2, which is 2. And we have symmetry, right? The absolute value of 1 plus 2 is 3. The absolute value of 2 plus 2 is 4. It's a little hard to see the blue down there. Sorry about that. So I could graph this new function either by moving each point up twice, right? Or I could have found and plotted these points. Same is true for quadratic. So look at this. Here we have our new function, f of x is the absolute value of x plus 2. Now, if I have f of x is the absolute value of x plus 2, if this was a quadratic function, remember we would have thought that this was shifted to the left 2, right? It's the opposite. If I'm adding, it goes in the negative direction. And let me show you why. So if I have f of x and x, and I want to pick some x values, let's pick negative 3, negative 2, and negative 1. So the absolute value of negative 3 plus 2 is going to be the absolute value of negative 1, which is 1. The absolute value of negative 2 plus 2, that's going to be 0. Okay, that's our vertex shifting over. The absolute value of negative 1 plus 2 is also 1, right? So here's our new function. We took our original quadratic function and shifted every single point over 2. So that's to the left 2. So why don't we go ahead and bring it all together. So if I have my original absolute value function, this graph is actually going to be shifted up 1. I always think it's easier to label the vertical first, and then right 3. So I'm going to go up 1, right 3. So I move to this one. I'm going to go up 1, right 3, up 1, right 3. So that's one side. I'm going to go up 1, right 3, up 1, right 3, and there's my other side. So this orange is our new graph using translations. Otherwise, I could have substituted in a bunch of points, but I feel it's faster to graph using translations.